I bought an abandoned mine for $12,000, thinking it was the deal of a lifetime. 6 months later, my Homeowners Association claimed they owned everything underneath it, the silver, the gold, even the ground I was standing on. Then a judge opened a folder of 100-year-old deeds, and the room went silent. Before we go any further, I want to know where you're watching from. Drop your country in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories reach. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is your last chance. Hit that subscribe button now, because the next story only gets crazier from here. My name's not important. What matters is that 3 years ago I was scrolling through a county auction site at 2 in the morning, half asleep, half bored, when I found it, 42 acres in the mountains with an old silver mine sealed shut since 1958. Starting bid, $12,000. No other bidders. I thought it was a glitch. I bought it anyway. The land came with a rusted gate, a collapsed mine shaft, and a stack of paperwork nobody had touched in decades. My friends called me insane. My wife called me worse. But I saw something they didn't, a piece of American history nobody wanted, sitting there waiting for someone to care. I had no idea that folder of paperwork would end up in a courtroom. Buried on page 14 of the closing documents was a single line I almost skipped over: mineral and subsurface rights subject to prior reservation, see attached. Attached to what? There was no attachment. My real estate agent shrugged. My lawyer said it was probably nothing, just old boilerplate language from another century. I filed it away and forgot about it. That was my first mistake. The property sat inside a residential zone that had grown up around it, a gated community built in the 70s, long after the mine went dormant. I didn't think much of the HOA when I moved in. I paid my dues. I mowed the 2 acres of grass near the entrance. I nodded politely at board meetings I never wanted to attend. Then I mentioned casually at a neighborhood barbecue that I wanted to reopen part of the mine as a small tourist attraction, guided tours, a gift shop, nothing crazy. The HOA president's face changed instantly. "You don't own what's underground," he said. "We do." I laughed. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. 3 weeks later, I got a certified letter from the HOA's attorney. It cited a community mineral trust established in 1974, claiming that when the neighborhood was developed, the original builder had reserved all mineral rights within the association's boundary, including my land, and transferred them collectively to the Homeowners Association for the benefit of all residents. In plain English, they were saying that whatever silver, gold, or anything else sat beneath my property legally belonged to 312 homeowners, not me. I remember standing in my kitchen holding that letter, feeling my stomach drop. I'd sunk my savings into this land. I had plans, dreams, a future built on that mountain. And now a group of strangers who'd never set foot near the mine shaft were telling me it wasn't mine. I called my lawyer. She read the letter twice and said 4 words I'll never forget: "We need the deeds." Before this went any further, I remembered something. An old man named Walt, who'd lived in that community since it was built, once stopped me at the mailbox and said, "You know that mine's got history nobody talks about. Ask the county for the real paperwork, not the copies, the originals." At the time, I thought he was just a lonely old-timer looking for conversation. Now his words felt like a warning I should have taken seriously months earlier. I never got the chance to ask him what he meant. He passed away that winter. But his advice sent me somewhere I hadn't thought to look. I spent the next 2 months in county archive rooms that smelled like dust and old paper, requesting every original deed connected to that land, going back to territorial records from the 1800s. My lawyer and I built a chain of title, owner by owner, decade by decade, tracing exactly who had held mineral rights and when and how they were transferred. What we found didn't match the HOA story at all. The 1974 Community Mineral Trust, the HO. A claim to control wasn't recorded against my parcel. It was recorded against an entirely different section of the development land the original builder still owned at the time, 3 miles away. My parcel, the one with the actual mine, had been sold off separately in 1961, 13 years before that trust ever existed. And the deed from that sale reserved the mineral rights specifically for the buyer, not the community, not the builder, not anyone else. That strange clause I'd skimmed over on page 14? It wasn't boilerplate, it was proof. The hearing took place on a gray Tuesday morning in a courtroom that felt far too small for how much was riding on it. The HOA's attorney stood first, confident, laying out their version: decades of assumed ownership, dues collected, community meetings where the mineral trust had been referenced like gospel. Then it was our turn. My lawyer placed the original 1961 deed on the exhibit table, followed by the county's chain of title records, followed by the 1974 trust document itself, proving, line by line, that the trust had never legally applied to my land at all. The judge put on his glasses and began reading through each deed slowly, out loud, cross-referencing dates and parcel numbers against a county map spread across the bench. The HOA's attorney shifted in his seat. Nobody in that room spoke. After nearly 40 minutes of silence broken only by turning pages, the judge looked up. The 1974 instrument, he said, does not apply to this parcel. It never did. The mineral rights described in the 1961 deed remain intact and belong solely to the plaintiff. The HOA's claim collapsed in an instant. 312 homeowners who believed they had a stake in that mountain learned, in one sentence, that they never did. Walt had been right all along. The real paperwork told a story the copies never could. Today, that mine is legally, unquestionably mine: silver, gold, and everything beneath it. But this wasn't the strangest deed dispute I've uncovered. Next week, I'm telling you about a family who bought a farmhouse, only to discover the house itself wasn't part of the sale. Subscribe now, because you won't believe how that one ends.